So, no, it says Neil McCargan under there, but this is Daria. And I am here joined by Carlo Kriekaard, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what he's done and who he is and what he's been up to in the industry. So, in your own words, could you tell me who you are and what you do?
I'm Carlo Kriekaard. The name is odd because it's Dutch. So I'm from Holland. I'm a musician. I play in a few bands, or I play in a band now. I used to play in a few bands. And I used to work as a stage manager in the old fruit market, and studied a couple of music courses as well in Glasgow and in Ayr.
Excellent. So we'll bring it right back to the beginning first, sort of young Carlo. So when you were at school, like what made you decide to actually go into music?
Uh, I didn't really. When your graduation and you're like the headmaster stands there with your diploma and asks you what you're gonna do with your future, and I said, "Oh, I was thinking of maybe doing music," and everyone was just like, "What?" Because I never really was that outspoken about it or let people know that I was into music. But my dad's a musician as well. He's a drummer. So am I. So that's what got me into music anyway. He always brought me along to rehearsals or his gigs. I used to play along. And then in school, I was always there in the background. And then I got drum lessons and they got me a bit more interested in like the music. And, through my drum lessons and my drum school, I got into playing bands and got into the local scene a bit. But I never really like pursued it that much. It was just a weird thing in the background, and then um, it was really after I graduated from secondary school, and I was looking for courses um, that I was like, maybe I should do music because I went off to do a course in Rotterdam first, which was event management, which sounded all cool and whatnot. And then I got there and it was actually like, no, this is not for me, man. And because loads of reasons, but I couldn't stick with it. It wasn't for me. And I took a gap year and then like just started to get more into music, playing in more bands. And then I noticed that the local music scene in where I was from, so The Hague, was quite um, like a bubble. So there wasn't much room for other music other than indie bands or whatever, which didn't really do much for me. So fast forward, uh, like a ex-colleague of my mum, her daughter, um, who is also Dutch, obviously, she was living in Glasgow for almost 10 years at that point, and she was talking about her and saying, "Oh, Flora lives in Glasgow and is a very creative city, a lot of music, blah blah blah. Why don't you go or get in touch with her and just have a wee chat?" And so I did. Um, had a wee chat, and then next thing I knew, I just went over to visit her, and uh, not in a romantic. Uh, Surrounding it was more out of interest of the city, obviously. So I went over and she showed me around, and like I met like a few of her friends who were all in the music scene, and it sounded really appealing and it looked really cool because there's loads of venues and we went to see a few gigs and blah blah blah. So that was that. Like I went back and I was like, right, Glasgow's cool, man. I should probably have a look how I can get there. So um, I looked up what kind of courses there were for music in Glasgow, and the first thing or she told me as well, was music performance. At the time was Stowe College, which is Glasgow Kelvin College now. And I looked it up and I was like, right, cool. sign up for that, and I just booked an audition. I went over, got the audition, got in, and then I was like, right, so I'm moving to Glasgow, and that was it. That was really the start. I think the course for me was like more an excuse for me to be able to, go and move here and live here. But I moved over here in October, or was it? I think August or October 2013. Um, and then stayed on that girl's couch for like 2 weeks before I got a flat with some other people. And then I started that course. I got a wee job, and through that course, I met loads of people as well. So that's really the starting point. I was like, right, I need to commit to this now, because it was quite a big step.
Yeah, you moved country to pursue music in Glasgow,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
a huge thing. It's brilliant. It's really, really cool that you went ahead and did that. So obviously you were in this course at college. So out with the course, was there anything that you started to get involved with specifically outside just the education? Because obviously you made it to Glasgow, you made it to this music scene, and you were like, right, okay, I need to get involved somehow. Like, how do I do it? What do I do?
Well, like in music, in
Mhm.
particular, like in bands or whatever.
Yeah, either
I
or.
mean, yeah. Um, well, it was really, I think, also because drummers are so like scarce around here. Um, so the girl I knew from Holland, she had a couple of friends who were just like playing music as well, and they were looking for a drummer because they had some gigs coming up, and they got in touch with her, and she got in touch with me asking if I would be interested in playing with them. So I was like, yeah, sure. I've no idea what I'm doing. Like, I can play drums, obviously, but I've no idea who you are or whatever. But I'll come round and see what we can do. Yeah, and that's like one part of like how I got to meet people. Another one was through like just through word of mouth. Another band looking for a drummer, and that was my like first proper band over here was called Jim Valentine. Um, and they were looking for a drummer, and I just like messaged them back. I was like, yeah, I can do it, and invited me for an audition and a chat, and that's how I got in like my first proper band. So um like I didn't meet anyone in in those bands through my course or whatever. I actually got one of the guys I was in a course with, a bass player in that band, Jim Valentine. So we slowly formed a band. We had a manager at that time as well, and like we started like playing the local scene. So all the smaller grassroots venues like Broadcast, Sleazy's. I'm not sure if what what's the place across Stereo called again?
Old hairdressers.
Oh yeah, Old Hairdressers. That's where we like done our very first show, and it was actually for Deadbeat Records, which is like one of my good friends' old record labels. He put on that night, and that's because of that night. Really, I got to know loads of people in the local scene because it was a gathering of like the whole scene I wanted to be in. Like all the the post punky like rock kind of scene. It was a very cool first gig for me with that band, and then yeah, we done a UK tour. We brought a single, went really well, and then it just died down, and it kind of morphed into another band. Uh, yeah,
So essentially, like a lot of, from word of mouth to then putting yourself forward for things because you were like, well, why not? Like, I can do this and I want to be involved with
yeah,
project. To then,
yeah. I
yeah,
think um, also because I took that step of moving here, I was like, right, I might as well just go all in and just respond to whoever is asking. And even if I'm not sure what it is, I'll just go and see what it is. And if I like it, I like it and I'll go on with it. If I don't, then, that's an experience. And I'll patch it after if it doesn't go anywhere or
Yeah.
it's not my liking, you know. So
And at the end of the day, any opportunity to network and get yourself out there could, provide you with other opportunities in the future. Because, that's the sort of magic of this industry is like you never know who you'll meet and what that person might end up doing for
yeah,
you or
totally.
you might end up doing for them.
Because that was that, you know, I don't think if it wasn't for that show, I wouldn't be where I am now or know the people
Mhm.
who I know, you know, like have the network that I have. Because it's all like people that, and especially like Connor, who had Deadbeat Records at the time, who started that kind of fire, um, you know, like made it possible for us to have that place together and get to know each other and see what each other's interests are, and then like you go from there. You might get a call from someone, hey, I'm looking for a drummer, or you're interested in to do this, and you're like, yeah, no, blah blah blah. You go and meet them. That's how fast it can go, really. So yeah, it's all about just you know like familiarize yourself and just be interested and open to things, I think.
So this actually leads really nicely into the fact that obviously, well, what you're talking about there is the fact that you are a session musician essentially. So if anyone is looking for, a drummer maybe to come into the studio or get involved with something or just play a one-off gig, it's like, well, I can do this. What do you need me?
Yeah, so I think yeah, there's not really a guide into how to become like a session. There's not a course or whatever. Like, obviously, there's things you need to be good at. So, like, obviously, know your instrument. But I think it's mainly also make sure you're nice to people, be open to it. So, like, I got into the session thing like through one of my old bands, like Alligator, we started, or Jim Valentine, even at that point. I can't remember. But Alligator, we started recording in Seven West Music, so Lo-Fi Studios, and we recorded like quite a lot in there. Um, and like me and the producer got like quite pally, because we've seen each other so much, and like he liked me as a drummer and as a musician and as a person, I suppose. And I also was just to him after we finished recording. I was like, if you ever get anyone that needs a drummer, just let me know, man. Like I enjoy just doing new things, and that's like how I got the thing with Jerry. Um, Mainly
Yeah.
because like I didn't know who Jerry was at all.
So just to
So
just to explain that there, you being a session drummer for Jerry Cinnamon.
Big Jerry, yeah. So I don't even know how long ago this was, but so that was the first album he did, Erratic Cinematic, and I got a phone call of Chris Marshall, who was the producer, and him and Jerry are good friends because they're from the same place, Castlemill, and obviously Marshall remembered me saying like, "Oh, he's up for playing drums with whoever." So he just phoned me. I was like, "Mate, I got a guy here, Jerry. He's a good friend of mine. He's gonna record his album, but he's just looking for a solid drummer to like play some of his songs." So I was like, "Yeah, cool. Just tell me when." Blah blah blah. Went in, and it was just a day of recording. So they recorded like 3 tracks for the album, and the rest is all like automated drums. Um, and yeah, like it was good fun. The guy's mental, but yeah. So play that, and I never knew like what it was gonna be or what it was gonna be like. So I think as a session musician, you just you come in prepared to a certain point. So they either give you pointers when you come in, or they give you music when you before you come in, or they like let you listen to a demo or whatever. So that was the case with Jerry. So Marshall sent me some demos beforehand, so I could kind of familiarize myself. Went in, and then Jerry was very specific about what he wanted on the tracks. So we done a couple take of each track, and then he just took the best takes he liked the most, and that was me. You know, that was like, I didn't really have any involvement in his songwriting because he had a certain thing he wanted. Like I just added like maybe tips or like pointers of like how certain drum transitions work or whatever, but that's like all the involvement you have. So um yeah, that was like the session thing. Like I also done some things for the LaFontaines, but that never like came to fruition because you never know what's gonna happen with takes or whatever. So you're just there on the day and get called in to do something, and that's you.
Yeah.
And I also think like Glasgow's like a town where it's mostly like established bands. There's not a lot of session work. It's more like people just moving around bands and like work on each other's projects rather than getting called in, right? I need you on a record or something. There's not a lot of that going on over here. I think if you want, like, if I wanted to become a full-time session musician, I have to go to London or something like that because that's
Yeah.
where all like the big studios are, and there's like a huge scene over there. But over here is good. There's like getting more studios over here, which means there's more people getting the chance to get their music forward. Which means like people need musicians to play on their record and all that. So
Mhm.
um, yeah,
100%. I mean, that I suppose that just goes to say, like, anything against London, particularly Glasgow and Scotland, is tiny. We are getting there, but ultimately, like, that is the big
there's
cat
a
down
lot of
south.
good music coming out of Glasgow. You know, I just think it's a bit of a bubble. You know, everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
And it can get very competitive in a sense. You know, everyone's like always looking over the shoulder, like seeing what everyone else is doing, and it can get a bit toxic at points. But it's a healthy thing as well. You know, it drives people to do better and better, which is cool. But and that's why you get like artists like Jerry or Lewis or the Ninth Wave. You know, like all people kind of like doing new stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah. So we're gonna maybe go back to sort of talking about your sort of band experiences again. Um, so obviously you being a drummer, um, and sort of from my experience particularly, um, you know, or I suppose it also depends from band to band. So I just want to ask you more about the sort of like dynamics that you have found in bands, and what was it like songwriting? Did you have much involvement in that? Did you not? Like, how did it differ from band to band? Because from my experience, you know, as a sort of artist manager, um, it would depend from the bands, to be honest, of how involved their drummers were. They
Yeah,
would obviously sometimes write lyrics as well, or sometimes they'd just be like, be told what to play, and then that's how they do.
yeah, the guys with the least ego, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
uh,
No, I think uh, in the bands that I've played in, so I think uh, up until the point I am now, so the band I am now, Vlure, um, is a band that really came to fruition of all our own experiences in other bands. Um, so like my first bands was more like as I was a supportive role, so I only wrote music, or like specifically just drums, like so my previous band, Alligator, was a band where the singer was mainly the songwriter. So he came into the studio with like an idea of a song. So he had like an idea of a riff maybe, or a song, like a vocal hook, or even like he would come in with like a rhythm he had in his head, and he would like try to vocalize that to me, and I would like expand on that. So try and play it. So I think the previous bands I've been in, and it's because I came to a new scene as well, and that like for me was, I always was more focused on maybe being a session musician or whatever, and then like I never really put my own songwriting first or my like musical writing and as a priority. But with the band I'm in now, like I'm able to do that. So what we usually do, like with Vlure, so my band now is either one of us comes in with a like a vocal hook, or like I come in with a beat or a melody or what, and then we expand on that. Whereas like compared to my older bands, it was really just coming from one person. So it, like you said, it just depends on the band, and you have to adjust to that. So you have to find the dynamic between you people in the band. So um, like for instance, if you're in a band with a person that is the songwriter, who comes up with the like the lyrics in most of the songs, I think like you should be there to support that idea, like because they also like obviously they have the main idea, but you're there to like build it, you know, like
Yeah.
each instrument is a building block. And I think that's like how you get a solid band as well. Like each person has their quality.
Yeah.
And that like it's hard to like maybe be in a dynamic like that because you feel like you're not maybe have a lot of input on it or whatever. But I also feel like if one of those blocks falls away, then the band's gone, you know. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's you're still working with people. You're working with people with different who have different ideas. Maybe like not everyone has the same kind of idea you have. You know, opinion difference of opinions, and that's always hard. It's harder to work with the people than with the music.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's something you have to sort out in a band first, and you find that dynamic the more you play with each other and you find your own qualities.
You get to know people as well, so you find out how they work, what their work
Yeah,
personalities
so
are
yeah,
like. Totally.
yeah. You have people that like maybe come in with like a completed tune, you know, and you just have to like play it live. Whereas my experience has always been like the jamming kind of thing. So people like a person comes in with a riff or whatever, and then you just start to jam it out, and then you come to a tune and you go from there. It's quite exciting to do, you know.
Yeah.
But like the band I'm in now, Vlure, is very much like everyone has their own input, and that's what's a lot of fun about it, you know, because you know you get like a whole different kind of music, and everyone's like, okay, cool, we're just gonna do it. We're not gonna really stick with something. Just
Yeah.
gonna go.
See what happens with it. Here's a fun question for you then. What's one of the coolest or one of the sort of funnest experiences that you've had whilst being in a band? It could be, say, a big cool event you've played at, cool show you're involved with, sort of cool branding or photo shoot that you did. Like, that's always really fun to sort of talk about. What have you been up to?
I think the most like the coolest thing I've done was like tour Europe with my previous band, Alligator. So we supported Slaves on their European tour, and that was amazing because we went to the most insane venues, and I think like the best one for me was the show in Prague, and we played a venue called the Roxy, and it was like a 2,000 cab venue, and it was filled to the brim, like even for our set. And you know, you're in a country, like people don't know you, you don't know how they're gonna react, and they're there for the main band. So you're just like go on up on stage and do your best, and we played a total blinder. and people loved it, you know, and that's the best thing you can get. Like people wanted our autographs and that, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Uh, Also, like that tour, we went to Switzerland and we stayed in this insane hotel. Like they put us up in this huge thing. We had like a bubble bath and like we had a buffet and all that. Whereas other venues you do, you get bugger all. We had to like stay in well, like what are they called again?
Hostels.
Yeah, Matt, we also, which is fun as well. You know, it's all like it was just one big adventure, and then you're just there for a day. Play it like you drive at night, you show up in the morning, you get some sleep, load in the venue, sound check, play your show, and then get sleep at some point, and then you do it. And you have to go to the next place. You know, it's mental. It's fast,
Was this was
but
this when we
great.
were at was this when we were at uni? You were doing this?
Yeah. So this was third year, start of third year. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you were like,
And
oh, you were like,
I had to email Kenny and Alan Dunbrick, and Alan wasn't having it. I was like, right, so I'm going. I have to be absent for like 2 weeks because I'm going on a tour with my band. And he was like, well, you need to make sure, like, I can't accept this because your coursework comes first and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, you know, is this not what you're talking about? Like, we're trying to build a career in music, you know, and like, I want to do it, but I'm getting told I'm not like able to. But yeah, it was in third year. But eventually I got to do it and it was all good and I passed. So
it was
here
not.
you go, Alan.
I remember that funny thing where you were like, "Oh God, I'm not gonna make it in today because I'm just back from a tour. I'm so tired. I can't make the train to go down to my
Oh yeah,
classes. I need a sleep." I
I
remember
feel like
that.
I slept for 2 days. Like I just slept for 2 days solid after that tour because
Yeah.
yeah, it was just mental. But it was so great. It was because you get to see the most insane places. Like
Hmm.
Germany as well. We played in Hamburg, uh, and I can't remember it was some mad venue. It was next to like this old World War II fortress thing. And it was such a cool venue, you
Yeah.
know, and like the slaves as well, the guys were so amazing, you know, like such lovely guys to be like on tour with and so supportive of our
Mhm.
stuff, you know. So that was like really nice as well, just to have that support from the main band you're touring with.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
yeah,
it was some amount of shows as well. I think actually I just missed you on that tour potentially because like I was flying out to Amsterdam like that November to see
right.
to just it was ironically it was just to go see Middle Kids and the Growlers when they were playing, and then like I
Oh,
was literally sitting at the airport and I put up a status saying flying out to Amsterdam, and then like Stephen McLean commented on there. He's like, oh we're in Amsterdam with slaves. Do you want guest list? So we ended up
oh,
at the slave show like that night. Literally just arrived in Amsterdam, like dumped the bags. Now the next thing you know, I was at the venue like with a beer and like, okay, cool. I'm
uh,
here for the slaves. That's a free gigs in like 3 days.
amazing.
I must have
I
just.
was, we couldn't play all of their shows because we had some like showcase shows. So I think the Amsterdam shows and all that we were either in Eindhoven or whatever, like somewhere in
Yeah.
Holland because we had showcases. But yeah, that's so funny, man. Like Stephen McLean's a good guy as well. He'll get
Yeah.
you sorted.
That's it. Well, I suppose it's just goes to show. It's just one of those things that like it's everyone's kind of friends in music. Everyone looks out for one another. And to be honest, if I was tour managing somewhere in a country and like I had sort of music friend of mine that was flying over, I'd be like, yeah, let's get you guest list. Let's get you on there.
It's a
So
familiar face as well, man. He would have loved it to see it because he's on the road, you know. So
it's a long time to be tour managing as well because you do go away for such long periods of time. Um,
mm,
God,
it's
can you
good fun, man.
I
Good
know
fun.
it's such nice sort of things that we can talk about. Just these random sort of happenings and stuff that happen within this industry because we are involved in it. and then like it does sometimes seem like out of film when you describe it, but actually that's the magic of the music industry. It's just like our day to day.
Yeah, yeah. Aye, it just happens, but also you don't really realize it until you've done it, you know,
Yeah,
like, you know,
this is what I've done.
but it's a really small thing, you know,
Mhm.
like that, the music industry, essentially. Like, and we haven't even scratched the surface, obviously. So,
No. So we're going to go back to maybe talk a little bit more about your educational path, aside from the fact that you had lecturers on your neck, even though you were on a tour, telling you to submit coursework. So you went to you did third year direct entry into the commercial music course at UWS, the same course that I
yeah,
went to.
yeah.
Obviously, we came in at the same year.
Uh-huh.
So given that obviously I know what it's like. We've been there. Did you get involved with any sort of projects and stuff that you were at uni? Did you do anything that you sort of carried on? Did you try anything different when you were there? Like, what were your experiences like going into
Well,
further
I think
education?
one thing I've really benefited from that course, and that's like one of the reasons why I went to do it, was like the legal side of it, and I was more prominent in the third year. You know, in like Kenny's class, Kenny's course was really interesting for me because it's like a subject that's ever evolving with like the streaming services, obviously, blah blah blah. So you got the copyright law and the bylaws and all that, and I wasn't really clued up on that. So I think that's something that really stuck with me. And as far as like all the projects, I think one of the projects I'd done in fourth year was record like my own like drum album kind of thing. Um, and that was like a whole new experience for me. But it taught me a lot like about producing, so like doing everything myself.
Mhm.
I think that course that we did was really exploring like your own entrepreneurial spirit, you know, so you have to undertake everything yourself. So you have an idea, like you get a brief saying, right, you need to come up with an idea, like I do an album or set up an event or whatever, right? Cool, and now go and do it. And that's you know really put you on the spot, and I think that really gave me a kick up the arse as well in terms of uh, you know, I always wanted to record a lot of stuff or produce a lot of stuff myself, which I was already doing, but that really leveled me by, right, I'm able to do it, you know, like I
Yeah.
shouldn't be scared of doing it. It's
No.
possible, it's there to do it.
I mean,
All the tools
you are
are here.
yeah, you are forced to like go do what you wanted to do, and also because you want to pass your course, but you're given the sort of space as well and the sort of support by the lecturers to like give you a hand if you're sort of struggling with it
Mm-hmm.
as well, which is cool. I mean, Christ, I started managing a band and I got them signed to a record label, and we got them to play
Yeah,
festivals and
exactly.
stuff, and or got sort of radio play as well, sort of national coverage, and that was just because I was like, oh God, okay, I need something to do for this project, and that's the sort of beauty of it. Like you might end up picking something up, and it goes amazingly, but at the same time you could also pick something up and maybe you give it your best, you give it a try, maybe you're like, okay, that's not for me, I'm gonna leave that alone, no thanks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think courses like that, like music courses or so like music business courses, I don't think you should at all like let it hang on the actual course. There's a lot of stuff you need to undertake yourself. Otherwise, you're not eventually gonna get a job by just having done the course, you know. And that's what like Big Alan in his chinos always told us as well. It was like, oh, you need to do that. But he's right, you know. You need to go out and do stuff and find out for yourself what interests like are for you and what isn't, because you need to kind of find out. It's not always going to be the way you think it's going to be, and that's why those courses are good to do. You know, if you want to go that way, if you want to go into the like creative or like media way, it's good to do those things. And the course I'd done before it, like, was a music performance course, so that was more focused on like the ability as a musician, which is a whole different thing than the commercial music course, you know. So it's like more focused on the backstage of the music, of the live music.
Yeah, because obviously, like, well, before everything that's happened with COVID, you got a job working as a stage manager at the Old Fruit Market. So can you talk me through, like, again, how did that come about, and what does your job actually involve? What does a stage manager do?
Um, right. So the like I used to work in the venue, like the Old Fruit Market, but I used to work at catering. So that was the very first job I got when I came over here, and like it was just a bar job, just to help me out, you know, pay my rent. And then like I worked there for years. Like eventually was a catering manager as well, which was horrendous. But I was like in a venue, you're in close contact with the other departments, so you get front of house, um, you get your stage, you get your security, you know, all that sort of stuff. And because I always was interested in events and in music, and I always seen it happening, you know, like the whole workings of a gig coming together, and uh, you know, and that always intrigued me and interested me. I love seeing that happen, and doing it myself as well, like playing gigs, so I know what is happening backstage. So like a couple of years ago, the stage department started hiring within the Old Fruit Market. So this Glasgow Live is the employer, and so I applied. I got in, and then you just start a stage crew, so you're just there to like set things up, or like be there during the event, make sure like if they need a table or a chair or like an extension cable or a telly or whatever, like you would go and get it for them. And then like gradually, the longer you do that, you get given your own events. So like my first stage managing experience there was doing a jazz festival. Um, and I just got given a stage for like a couple of days, and I had to like just go with it. So the stage manager, yeah, I think you're like the liaison between the artist and the venue. So you also get a thing called artist liaison, and that's more to do with like maybe the needs of the artist, like backstage. So like, have they got drinks, or have they got a place to stay, have they got showers, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And stage manager is solely there for the purpose to make sure everything runs smoothly on stage, before, during, and after, you know. So before, you need to make sure the stage is set, so the artist comes in for their sound check. You need to make sure they can get in properly, they can get loaded in, and make sure they have their PowerPoints, you know, they can plug in their instruments. Everything is up to health and safety, you know. You need to get your crew to help the artist and all that sort of stuff. Do your sound check, and then during sound check you can already like find out if there's going to be any problems. So if there's an artist that like has a lot of lighting, or like has certain wishes for their sound.
Yeah.
So we had the Alabama Shakes.
All right. Yeah.
What's her name?
Oh.
Alabama.
Um. Ah. Um. I know who you mean.
Brittany Howard.
Brittany
Brittany
Howard.
Howard.
Yes.
Right. So we had her coming in, and but she had like very specific requirements for like her stage sound, and so that's something I don't deal with like directly. So they needed extra PA, and that's all ordered in by the production management. And you just need to make sure the placement is there. You need to make sure they have like everything they need on stage. And then when showtime comes, you need to make sure they're on stage on time. during the performance, you just need to stand by. If there anything goes wrong, you need to make sure you solve the problem. So there could be a power cut, there could be something with the instruments, or like even like a light or whatever it goes out. You need to make sure you're there to solve it. So it's very demanding in the moment, and you need to act fast and blah blah blah. And then like when the gig's finished, so you need to make sure they're off stage on time, so they can't go over the curfew, you know, because the venues have curfews. And then like you obviously get when they finish their performance, you need to load everything out so that you've got your crew for it, but you just need to make sure it all happens properly and it all happens on time, and the artist is happy and their whole crew is happy, you know. So you're just there to fulfill their needs and make sure they have
Everyone's
like
okay.
a flawless performance.
Yeah.
uh, and like there's nothing technically that can go wrong, and if it goes wrong, you're there to solve it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting job, and you know, as a stage manager, you do sometimes have to be bad cop when you know it's curfew. They want to play another song, and you're like, no, he's off the stage now, because you know
Yeah, yeah.
all the
uh,
laws, etc., all the sound laws, all the you know alcohol restriction laws as well, or obviously pre-COVID,
yeah,
etc. So it's an interesting
stage
job.
driver.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I don't think I'd fancy being a stage manager. I've been artist liaison before, and that was demanding enough. So, yeah,
Oh no, you get to see some
totally.
amazing shows, and like I think it's the level of, so the venue I work at. So there's the old fruit market. So you get the Grand Hall and the old fruit market, which are high cap venues. So you get like quite big, big artists coming in, which is already, they already have like quite a flawless production. So you're just there to make sure
Mm-hmm.
they are adhering to the rules, and but usually it all goes smoothly. You know, it's all
Yeah.
fine.
And then it does mean that you do end up having, you know, friends working in these lovely venues, and then they get you guest list for what, the Dandy Warhols?
Oh yeah, mind that. Yeah, it was cool. It wasn't as loud as I thought it would be, but hey
Yeah,
ho.
it was one of those things. I mean, at least we can say like we've seen them live now, for free.
Gladly back when gigs were still a thing.
Oh God, this actually
Like,
leads even nicer into obviously the topic of COVID-19 and how we're all dealing with it. Obviously, my route was to go back into education and essentially hide out for the time being because all my sort of grand ambitions and plans are out the window because
yeah.
industry's at a halt. How have you been affected? What's sort of been happening? Like, have you got any sort of good stories to tell out of all of this happening?
Well, so like both my work and my hobby have been like majorly affected. You know, so my like the venue I work at is closed
Mm-hmm.
for the foreseeable. So I'm very lucky that I got furloughed. That doesn't happen like much in the culture industry anyway, because it's
Yeah.
such a like a freelance industry. But because we are employed by Glasgow Live, we were able to, which is very lucky. But we're like there won't be anything happening till early next year, maybe like halfway through next year, in there, which is a saddening prospect.
Yeah.
In terms of the band, obviously everything has been postponed and rebooked for next year. So in the meantime, I have like the start of lockdown was, I was still writing the dissertation, so we were still doing our dissertation. Which like I didn't, it was all blur, like the whole lockdown thing at the start.
Oh,
Um, and then like after that, you know, it kicked in, and then yeah, you just need to find stuff to keep you busy. So I started exercising loads and all that. But in terms of like the band, we like at the start of the lockdown, obviously we couldn't do anything, so we tried to set up a thing on our Google Drive, and we said to ourselves like, let's try and get an idea in every week, like and just put it on our Google Drive, so we have like demos and all that. And it went fine for the first couple of weeks, and then we just patched it. Like it just didn't happen. You can't force these things. But I've been able to like really get zone in and working with Ableton, you know, so like producing music and making like writing a lot of music myself, which has been a great experience because I never really took the time to do that, and which has me like getting I feel getting more involved in the band I'm in now because I'm able to produce more and like make a lot of like produce beats or like the actual music that we play now in our first single as well. So when the rules got loosened up a wee bit, we managed to get into the studio and recorded our single. We managed to get an agent. We managed to get like a lawyer as well. So we're pretty much set for our musical team, and we've just been like writing loads as a band, and just getting our set like ready to go.
Yeah.
And you got always all the like the live streams and all that stuff, but we didn't really get involved with that because I tried to watch one live stream and then I was like, this is not for me, man. So we steer clear for that.
Yeah.
From that, just done a couple like exclusive ones, and that was it. You know, because it can get boring real quick. I feel like the engagement between you and your crowd can just go with that.
Totally, because it is through a screen. Although interestingly enough, I literally watched you on the Say Awards tonight actually, so this will actually
yeah,
give
yeah.
away
That was fun. That was
the sort of time of which we're filming this. But yeah, that was interesting seeing Vlure perform, 3 songs live, and it is, you're right, it is weird because it's like you're so used to when you're at a gig seeing a band being sort of enveloped in the noise and the sound and the atmosphere, and you have to pay attention to when the band's playing because it is that loud, but as opposed to like sitting around a laptop tonight, obviously your band playing and we've obviously got the volume up a normal sort of level, and it was bizarre because it's you almost feel like it should be a live gig but you're not there. It makes you miss it even more, I'd say.
Yeah, it was really fun to do, and that was like the first time being on a stage again in front of people since March.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool to do, but it's obviously not the same. Yeah, and it's been tough for us as a band because we are like a band that really needs to play live in terms of engaging with our audience, and
Yeah.
the kind of music we play as well is quite a visceral kind of music, which demands the connection between the crowd and us.
Totally.
And yeah, so that's why we didn't do a lot of live streaming stuff. The Say Award was like a cool opportunity and cool to be asked to do that, so we didn't think twice for doing that. But yeah, it's pretty grim not being able to go and see a band.
Anything. Yeah, I suppose that's why a lot of bands are holding off as well and not releasing material or not pushing with things because they're like, well, we can't play live. Like, how are we meant to obviously get a good audience or a true audience that isn't, just watching us for our aesthetics, but actually wants to be there and connect? It is a sort of difficult time, but I'm optimistic that things will move on and things will go back to normal. And quite frankly, I promise after all of this, the next time someone says to me, like, do you want to come to this gig? And I'm like, I'm too tired, or I've seen that band before, I'm not fussed, or I don't want to pay that much for a ticket. Like, do I have to? Like, I'm never ever turning anything down ever again.
Exactly. Yeah, me, like I was thinking about it before we done this. Like watching the Say Awards thing, I was like, I'm gonna see everything once this is over, man. Like I don't even care anymore. Like I need it in my life again.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's you notice how much you miss it, but
totally.
it's affected loads of people in industries. It's been, and that's somewhat of a consolation as well. Everyone is in the same boat, and but let's just hope it's going to be over soon. And we'll be back to normal before we know it, and we
Yeah,
just think of 2020 of like
funny
a
year.
wee black hole in our lives. You know?
Um, so, do you have any advice for any sort of anyone that's, hoping to get into the industry, hoping to get into music, or, they've been playing in the bedroom for a while and they're like, right, what do I do now? Like, you've got anything to say to any of those young cats?
I'd say, well, obviously not. You're not able to do it now, but whatever you do, if you want to go into music, go out, go see bands, go try to organize events, try to undertake things yourself. And I think like either performance or logistics, behind the scenes, it's good to become an all-rounder, get familiar with all sides of music or the entertainment or the industry you want to be in. I think the main thing is that was for me, just go into it. Don't think about it. Like don't be scared of it because there's no time to
Yeah.
do that. And it's fun. It's fun to just go out and just try things, and then you'll find out what you like and what you don't like. So, and also if you want to be in a band or whatever, like go out and try and find like-minded people. There's always people that are into the same stuff as you are. Even though you don't think there will be, there's always,
Someone.
especially in Glasgow, I've never seen so many kinds of different bands or different kind of music available to go and see. Like it's insane. So yeah, just
Give it a go.
don't worry. If you want it, you'll get it.
Yeah. Oh, that's some nice words. Well, thank you very much.
No
I'm
worries.
gonna hit stop